Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer and cut through the massive, and I mean massive confusion surrounding AI video generators right now. Millions of us are using these tools every single day, but honestly, very few people are actually using the best one for their specific content. I mean, with new models dropping constantly, the noise is just deafening. So today, we're setting the record straight. We are putting the absolute top models to the test to see which one truly deserves your time, and more importantly, your hard-earned credits.
So, which AI video generator is actually the best? It's the million-dollar question, right? But here's the biggest frustration you've probably faced when trying to find the answer. You look online, and you see countless reviews comparing these models. But the problem? They're using completely different prompts and completely different image references for each generator. It's like comparing apples to, I don't know, a toaster. They're basically cherry-picking inputs just to make one model look better than another. That is incredibly unfair, and quite frankly, it doesn't help us at all. We need a perfectly level playing field.
And that brings us to the contenders. Meet our 5 heavyweights for today's showdown: Seedance 2.0, Kling 3.0, VO 3.1, Grok Imagine, and One 2.7. We're going to be completely transparent here. We are putting all 5 of these through a totally fair, standardized stress test. We're talking the exact same prompts, the exact same reference images across the board. To make absolutely sure it's a unified testing environment, all of these are being accessed directly through Higgsfield. So no unfair advantages, zero bias, just raw, head-to-head performance.
Here's the agenda for today's Battle Royale. We've got Round 1, the physics test, Round 2, audio and lip sync, Round 3, complex action, and Round 4, cost versus value. After that, we'll wrap it up with the final verdict. All right, kicking things off with Round 1. The physics test, where we're testing natural movement and water dynamics. Now, why physics? Well, we're looking for natural body mechanics, because unlike bad lighting or weird color grading, you literally cannot fix physically impossible body movements in post-production. If a character's arm bends backward, your only option is to trash the clip, eat the cost, and pray the next generation is better. Case in point, we used a prompt showing a man removing his shirt and diving into the water, and wow, Grok and One 2.7 completely failed this one. Instead of, a natural pulling off motion, the shirt just bizarrely morphs or straight up vanishes into thin air. On top of that, One 2.7's water entry looked way more like a glitchy editing cut than an actual fluid splash. If you need objects to interact realistically with environments, these results are a huge red flag. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, we have our top performers. I am officially crowning Seedance 2.0 the winner of Round 1. Okay, sure, the character didn't sprint exactly as we prompted, but the second he hits the water, the physics are absolute perfection. Super clean entry, buttery smooth splash, it easily takes a massive 9.5 out of 10. Kling 3.0 came in a really close second with a 9. It only lost a point because the whole shirt removal looked kinda awkward, more like a weird shrug than a pull, but its underwater slow motion was absolutely gorgeous. And VO 3.1 rounded out the top 3 with an 8.5. It felt super cinematic, but it did struggle just a tiny bit with the character floating weirdly right before impact. Moving right along to Round 2, audio and lip sync, evaluating voice clarity and speech sync. Look, if you're creating character-driven content, the most mind-blowing visuals in the world mean absolutely nothing if your characters can't speak properly, right? Poor audio just completely caps the kind of content you can make. And unfortunately, we saw some spectacular failures here. As this quote points out, 1.2.7 was a total disaster, scoring a dismal 2 out of 10. The voice was virtually non-existent, and when it did finally kick in, it was just stuttering uselessly. Grok really wasn't much better. It pulled a 3 out of 10 for this robotic, choppy voice that, get this, actually misspelled spoken words. The takeaway here is crystal clear. If you are making dialogue-heavy content, stay far, far away from these two. But man, look at these top scores. We've got to give the Round 2 championship belt to VO 3.1. It pulled off a flawless, absolutely perfect 10. It delivered this crystal clear American voice and even managed to perfectly layer in highly realistic ambient fire sounds in the background. Honestly, it was a jaw-dropping result. Seedance 2.0 and Kling 3.0 were right on its heels though, both scoring a 9.5. They gave us incredibly clear voices, supernatural delivery, and lip syncing so perfect you could literally read the character's lips. A super tight race at the top. Okay, things are heating up. Round 3, complex action, where we're tracking 2 characters fighting. Getting an AI to make one character throw a punch is hard enough, but adding a second person, that forces the model to track multiple moving bodies all at once. It is the ultimate test for temporal consistency. Basically, can the AI remember where arms and legs are supposed to be from one frame to the next? Under that kind of pressure, some of these models just totally crumble. VO 3.1 and Grok both scored a mediocre 6 out of 10 here. Grok had some cool dynamic camera swoops, sure, but both models fundamentally failed to simulate real physical impact. There was zero weight behind the punches. As the quote says, it looked exactly like a rehearsed dance routine instead of a gritty, heavy fight. Oh, and for context, 2.7 scored a 3 here. The visual quality literally nosedived the second complex motion started.
But standing head and shoulders above the rest, once again, is Seedance 2.0. It takes another massive win with a flawless 10. It gave us this extremely clean, hyper-realistic exchange. Every single punch landed, the timing was absolutely immaculate, and the impacts genuinely looked like they had some serious force behind them. Kling 3.0 definitely held its own with a very solid 8. It was stable and totally usable, even if a few of the punches connected maybe a fraction of a second too early or too late. But Seedance undeniably proved it handles complex action better than anybody else in the game right now.
Let's bring it back to reality with round 4, cost versus value, looking past raw quality to usable footage. Okay, so the math here can be incredibly deceptive because you really can't just look at the raw credit cost. You have to ask yourself, how much usable video am I actually getting? Seedance 2.0 is clearly positioned as a premium model at 180 credits, but that buys you a full 15 seconds at 1080p. Now look at VO 3.1. It boasts that incredible 4K resolution, but there's a massive catch. It only generates 8-second clips. Since basically every other model gives you 15 seconds, you effectively have to run the generation twice with VO just to get the same amount of footage. That skyrockets its real comparative cost to around 165 credits. And sure, Grok looks like the cheapest option at just 23 credits, but considering it runs at 720p with terrible audio, that value evaporates pretty fast.
But hey, the number I really want you to focus on right here is 30. That is exactly how many credits it costs to use Kling 3.0. For just 30 credits, Kling delivers a full 15 seconds of high-quality 1080p video. When a model can pump out full-length, highly usable clips for a fraction of the cost of the big premium heavyweights, it puts immense pressure on models like Seedance and VO to mathematically justify those sky-high price tags.
Which brings us to the final verdict, matching the model to your specific creator profile.
Honestly, the truth is that the quote-unquote best model depends entirely on what you actually need to do. If raw performance is literally all that matters to you, Seedance 2.0 is the undisputed king of overall quality. It crushed the physics round, it completely dominated complex action, and it was exceptional in audio. If you demand the absolute best, most reliable performance for hard, complicated scenes, Seedance is your tool, period. But if you're trying to stretch a budget to produce a high volume of content, Kling 3.0 is the absolute winner for value. If you want consistently great results without burning through your entire credit allowance in an hour, Kling strikes the perfect balance.
And then we have our niche specialists. VO 3.1 is strictly for creators who absolutely demand 4K output and flawless cinematic audio and lip syncing. If that is your specific use case, it is totally unmatched, but remember, you are going to pay a premium for that 8-second limit. Grok Imagine? Well, it's essentially just a cheap sandbox. It's a low-cost entry point if you just want to mess around with AI video, but definitely not for serious production. And as for 2.7, honestly, based on all this data, it just doesn't stand out on price or performance. Save yourself the headache and just avoid it.
Now, what's incredibly empowering about all of this is that you don't actually have to choose just one. You don't have to lock yourself into a single ecosystem and cross your fingers hoping it works for every single shot you need. As we noted right at the top, all of this standardized testing was done through Hugsfield. By using an aggregator platform like that, you get access to all of these models under a single subscription. You can strategically toggle between them. Use Seedance for that really complex fight scene, switch over to VO for the 4K close-up dialogue, and then fire up Kling for all your standard B-roll. So, before you click generate on your next project, I want to leave you with this to chew on. Take a hard look at your own content strategy right now. Look at your scripts, look at your storyboards. What is actually more important for your next